Hello, Dima. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. And it's not raining right now.
I'll take it, right?
Yeah, how's it
it,
going in your world?
it's been coming in bands. I don't know. It's been strange there. Rains hot and heavy for a minute, and then stops, starts again. So I'm just hoping our friends out in Lake Charles and Lafayette and everybody west of us are going to be okay through this
Yes, yes.
crazy times. Just when you're thinking about Corona and toppling that, here we go with some canes.
Yeah, 2020.
Not the good kind. And there's no sauce with this. It's the worst kind.
Yeah, 2020. Oh my
2020.
goodness. I already asked God to not have any natural disasters this year, but I guess I'm not praying enough. So
Oh man.
on a bright side, we have an amazing guest today.
We do. We have an interesting guest, an amazing guest, and a friend of mine and ours. So this is going to be a fun one. Tommy Talley. I know I've known Tommy for a while. I'm excited to have him on the show. I'm even repping some of his work.
Oh wow.
With another friend of ours from Government Taco, Mr. Jay Cody. It's crazy. I know Tommy, but it's like I know a lot of people that know Tommy too. And let's just get Tommy Talley on here so everyone else can know him. Come on, buddy. There you is.
What's up, guys?
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I took a chance to get out of the house and come back to the office as hurricane prep is in full effect. So ready for power loss potentially, ready for a lot of water. Hopefully it's not too bad. I know that Baton Rouge has missed the brunt of it, but this thing is no joke. It is a 4 now, and it is coming in hot. So
yeah, it's coming in hot and heavy. Hoping everybody can stay safe. If you're watching, stay safe. Get ready to hunker down, everybody. Get you some water and some essentials. Do you have a game plan, Tommy? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like at getagameplan.com?
Yeah, no, I have never been the most prepared. I got a generator a year ago, and I'm still not sure if there's any gas in it. So I think we have a gas can in the back somewhere, but I'm never prepared enough. I'm like, ooh, that thing's pretty. I think we might use it. And
I walked by
yeah,
earlier and kicked it to make sure there was something in it still.
Yeah. Man, we haven't lost power. When we came back from LA in 09, I think Gustav was 08, so we were partially back then. But I really haven't. I don't recall going through anything major as an adult owning my own properties per se. Obviously, we had the flood in 16, but it was nothing like I remember as a kid because I was sitting in Old Goodwood, and like the way the flood happened, 16, it just wasn't. It was just rain, and so it didn't feel like anything was happening until there was this moment. Like I remember Andrew as a kid, and that was like, Pierce Brosnan might as well have been in that movie. Like it was like loud, windy, strong. You're like, where's the action hero? Like who's coming to save us? Like, but that's not the way 16 felt, even though it was obviously horrific. It just kind of stayed. This seems a little different. This thing's strong.
It's got a weird vibe attached to it. And I think Andrew was like the first Cat 5 that I remember, right? Everyone can kind of talk about like their storms, even the generations before us, like Camille and all those other crazy ones that were really bad for the South and the Gulf. So, I mean, hurricanes just have a different vibe to them now. So when we thought we were weathering this virus storm, now we have the real storms coming too, saying, we're back. Yeah, it's insane, man. It's insane. Well, look, we could talk about pretty much anything, Tommy. I love the fact that you're on the show. I'm so glad. Dima, did you know Tommy before this show?
We just met. Yes, we just met. And we're surprised that we haven't met before because we have a lot of friends in common.
Yeah.
I can go to Facebook and check how many contacts we have in common. It would end up being like 300.
We've definitely come within close crossing. We've come within close crossing.
Beard. What was that, buddy?
I said we have come in. Dima and I have definitely crossed paths close by at some point, but I I think we're both right. I think we never have really met, and we definitely have never really interacted on any level. So super nice to meet you. Rob is in Baton Rouge Ancient Athletes with me, and that's how I really got to know him well. It's always you're out there playing volleyball, or whatever, you turn around, and the Cheshire Cat is just smiling behind you all the time, and his smile just takes up the whole frame of your vision. And you're just like, Rob's here! This is so exciting. So
it works because I was much chunkier then too. So I mean, I was definitely perched up on those little like levees at Mango's, with my tail, having a drink, ready to catch like a foul ball, volleyball somewhere, running through some nets. So sorry about that. But yeah, Tommy, I mean, I knew about Tommy before I got to know Tommy personally. It was sort of like y'all's situation. I mean, it was crazy how I hadn't crossed paths with you, but you know so many people, man. I mean, can you kind of tell us a little bit about you and like where you're from for the people that don't know you, which is probably very unlikely.
Right. So I am from Baton Rouge. I was like a gifted and talented magnet kid through elementary, middle, high, and that was kind of my journey. Graduated from Lehigh after Baton Rouge High. Didn't want me there anymore. I was not ready for the Baton Rouge Magnet College prep. At that point, I was like checked out. So I go to LSU. I'm a photo major. I am in college 2000, 2001, 2002, and it's becoming super clear that if you want to take photos, you have to be at a computer all day because Photoshop is the thing, digital is the thing, and I liked the idea of being Ansel Adams and taking pictures of amazing things and then going into a darkroom and being the physicality of it. Mainly, like I said, with school, I couldn't sit at a computer. I couldn't sit at a desk. It's like ADD kid who's like, when all that happens, I'm like, I'm going to go work in LA. So reality show comes to Baton Rouge called College Hill. College Hill was on BET. I apply for that and I get a job as a PA. And I quickly annoy everyone on set enough to let me hold a camera that I eventually get my hands on a camera, probably just because I bugged the crap out of them enough and wanted it. And when that show was done, I was like, my wife got accepted to USC. If I go to LA, do we have work? And they were like, come to LA and we'll get you work. So we stayed with a buddy named Adam Fine for about a month. And he had a gig for MTV's Punk'd that like my third day in Los Angeles, he was like, I need a number 2 on Punk'd, come with me. And my third day in Los Angeles, I was sitting next to Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, and I was shooting Punk'd. And it was go time.
So I love his story.
That's how that happened.
Yeah, you can't stop now. Keep going. I mean, you're in LA. You're doing this on day 3. What?
Yeah, it was very strange. One of my favorite LA stories is that, and the way I tell it is very LA, so sorry. But there's a guy named Jason Goldberg who's Ashton's number 2, produces all his stuff. And he was the guy always sitting left of me, directing me, but he never really interacted with me. You know, he's an EP, he looks through the underlings. So I was still the kid there, like basically we call him on set like Sparky. I was basically Sparky, like I'm leg humping everybody, right? I'm just like, I'm from Louisiana and I want to do this. And I'm just like so excited to be there. And so he's walking by and it's one of those moments as a kid, you just want to say something to the big shot to like try to have a conversation. So he's walking up and I'm trying to think of what to say. And all of a sudden I go, hey, Jason, how often is Demi on set? And he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, her name is Demi. And if you ever call her Demi again, you'll never work another day in this town.
Wow.
And so funny story about Jason Goldberg is he's married to Soleil Moon Frye. Does anyone know who that is?
No way.
Yeah. So Soleil Moon Frye is Punky Brewster.
Yeah.
For any of the 80s kids out there. So that was kind of like getting thrown into the fire. And I think to this day, you know, we work with a lot of athletes now. Something as simply as being in the C-suite, these things don't intimidate me because, man, LA taught me how to act around big time, you know? It's like, you know, this doesn't shock me. I've been around it, the reps, all these things. And so, yeah, working in a smaller market is way more my speed. After doing Punk'd, which Punk'd, I mean, the schedule is 3-4 months. They book you out for a day here, a day there. We stayed in one location for 18 hours trying to punk Lil Wayne. and just had to leave because like they never got him to where we wanted to be.
Wow.
And so like things like that would happen. But you know, go on, do MTV, VH1, like Tool Academy, Paris Hilton's BFF, just all this crazy stuff. And I think, you know, a lot of what we see now with just content online, like reality TV taught me how to create that, because you create something out of nothing. On Tool Academy, you had 3 days to put an episode in the can. Do y'all know what Tool Academy is? I guess I should explain it. This isn't like Tim Tooltown Allen. This isn't a mechanic or someone who's handy with tools. This is douchebags, predominantly from New Jersey, which is where Jersey Shore came from. This show pulled all these jewels off of Jersey Shore, and the producer and just like, oh my God, all the people from this, all the dudes from this region are the biggest tools in the entire world. Let's create a whole show about it. And so, but Tool Academy, these girlfriends or significant others would send their douchey boyfriend to Simi Valley on some lie that there were going to be like some modeling contract for some new energy drink. They'd get them on a bus, and then they'd get there and they'd have to go meet with a psychologist about how to be less douchey. So this is the type of crap I'm working on after Punk, which is one of the reasons I wanted to leave Los Angeles. But if you need to get a show done, if you needed to get a show done in 3 days, if by like day 2, like you didn't have a great, if by day 2 you didn't have a great tool fight, you would literally just be like, hey guys, y'all been doing great. Y'all go out and party tonight. And you'd take them out, let them party to 3 a.m. You get them home drunk as a skunk, and then literally walk into the room at 6 a.m. with a bell and be like, get up and clean this house right now. And then you'd be like, here's some Red Bull, here's some more alcohol. And within like 3 hours, someone was going to punch someone in the face, and you'd have your episode. It's like,
throw up at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm sorry, Dima. We're both cracking each other up. And I hope everyone doesn't get, you know, have a seizure from the show. You should have it from the giggles, because me and Dima are clicking on the same stuff at the same time. I'm hands off, Dima. I'm just gonna laugh.
You do it. It's okay. I'm going to enjoy the show.
Okay, so Tommy, I love it, Dima. If you haven't got it yet, okay, and for those who don't know Tommy, the dose of authenticity is real with this one, and the force is strong. And that's why I love you, man. I'm getting the real, in video terms, I'm getting raw content all times. And I love that shit, dude. I love you. And I love your point of view. I love what you bring to the table. And if you can't tell, Mr. Chief Storyteller of Echo Tango has been there, done that, and he chooses to be in Baton Rouge doing amazing stuff with some really good people. And look, we need to talk about, you know, how you get connected with people like Jay and Beverly, but we still need to finish the story, and you know, we still need to talk about some of your amazing work that you do. So you're you're in LA, but you're filming Jersey Boys in a different, like, you know what I mean? And so at Tool Academy, how do you find you did some cool stuff. You did like Yo Gabba Gabba, and you know, tell us about some of the shows that you've been on or been involved with, just to let people know, like, you are, and by far one of the highest viewing parties that we have. So please keep telling us stories, Tommy.
Sure.
Go.
I mean, so yeah, like what happens in reality TV is you get stuck in circles. And so Tool Academy was a company called 495. The show they did right after Tool Academy was pretty much when I leave LA, and it's just getting frustrating because we're creating crap. Like, and basically I just wasn't meeting good people. It was a bad circle, and that's not to say everyone was bad on there, but the leadership, the executive producers, the lead lady came from Sally Jessa Raphael. She created daytime talk. She knew how to just like take a firebomb and throw it in a room and just create content. And so she knew how to do that, and it was wearing me out. When I really hit the wall, there was a show called More to Love, and she's producing it. It's for Fox. It's right around the time Fox is trying to re-identify itself. And it's like the OJ book, I Did It, is like being fun, like What If I Did It, or something's being done, and they're doing like a Fox show about it. Like all these things, Fox is trying all sorts of stuff. More to Love was The Bachelor but with fat girls. I mean,
Right.
like, and that's literally the way it was marketed. And it was the most,
Yeah.
I was like sitting there, I couldn't say no. And it was just the most horrific thing to ever be a part of. Like, the idea that you get the reaction you want because you have a girl in there and you're like, this is how a production moment goes. There's a date the night before. She goes out with Charlie or whatever his name is. And legitimately, she gets upset or the date doesn't go well. So in interview, the producer the next day is asking her about it. The producer can't get her to cry. This beat does not work without tears. So this dude says, hey, hold on 1 second. We always have earbuds in on sets, and puts his finger up to his ear, looks up like he's talking to the omnipotent God, because we have cameras everywhere. Control's talking to him, but not really. He's pulling a producer moment and goes, oh, we have to go back to your entry interview because we missed a few questions from day one. So we'll get back to your date from last night, but tell me about your parents. And then knows this particular girl's trigger situation because we do psychological breakdowns of them all. And he goes, okay, and then tell me about senior prom. What? I know it was horrific, but just we need to go over it one more time. Who'd you end up having to go with and why? And it's like some horrific story for this girl. When 17, she got stood up and had to, so now she starts crying about that. And while she has tears rolling down her face, you go, okay, dinner last night, you're eating the catfish and what's happened? And like, that's the way you make reality TV. And I'm sitting here behind the camera and I'm like, you know, it's horrible. So that's the end of true reality for me at that point. I come back home, and that's where I get to go start doing some fun stuff. I got to go to the Bahamas for 28 days, and they hired me just to do tape backups for a show called The Superstars for ABC. So it's Terrell Owens, Lisa Leslie, Robert Horry. It's like athletes who just retired. And it's a throwback to a 70s show where they used to compete in like sporting events or athletic competitions that obviously weren't part of their strength. And so they like team up and do all that stuff. But I got to sit in the Bahamas in my swim trunks for $600 a day and sit at Atlantis and just make backups. So everything we shot during the day, I was going to carry those tapes home with me for safety, and we were going to ship the masters. But if they got lost in shipping. So I still to this day will say that is the chillest, coolest gig I've ever gotten. I would start dubs on the tape, and then I'd go down water slides, and then I'd go get a cocktail and go catch up with everyone. And then I'd come back in and change out some dubs and then go down some water slides. And yeah, it was silly. And then I got to go do Yo Gabba Gabba, which at the time of having kids our age, I did the 4th season. I got to meet Mark Mothersbaugh, who's the founder of Devo. I got to meet some really cool folks and shoot, honestly, one of my first set-driven shows. I was very much documentary and reality. And so that's really the only time I'd ever quasi-worked in scripted. I mean, outside of DJ Lance Rock, you're really not scripted. Everyone else is in costume and the voice is voiceover and everyone's just like. But when you talk about the idea of creating kids content where it doesn't need to be about learning all the time, if the concept is children can have fun and that's totally acceptable, like don't worry about it, like sing, dance, play. That's what these dudes were all about. And they were in a punk band called the Aquabats. So that's where the 2 directors of Gabba came from. Most folks out here don't know the Aquabats very well, but they were basically a cartoon style based punk band that dressed up in ridiculous costumes. So yeah, but that journey was great. You know, the kids came out, got to check out set. Jason Bateman was on set that day doing the Spies episode from season 4. And then we went to Disneyland the next day, and the kids were asking to go back to Yo Gabba Gabba because it was cooler than Disneyland. So.
That's awesome, man. I can only, and then not to jump a little bit ahead, but what about Swamp People too? You did that.
Yeah, Swamp People was awful.
I mean, you.
When you talk about a guy who can hardly walk through the woods without seeing a stick and think it's a snake and jump out of his pants, like Swamp People was tough. My people are from Port Barry, but the moment I got there, Junior and Willie sniffed me out as a city boy, and they ate my lunch, dude. It was rough.
What got you back to Louisiana? What happened?
My wife was done raising 2 kids by herself while I traveled the U.S. shooting terrible reality content. So yeah, I think to tell that story, I came home with my tail between my legs. Like I left a Baton Rouge that was I have to go work at a news station, or I have to shoot weddings, or I have to. I just saw Little Foodie asked a question. I got distracted. Thanks, Jon
Yeah,
Snow.
I'm sorry. It's so long. And honestly, it's Little Foodie, and he can't stay long.
Yeah. So Little Foodie's bringing up the time that I made the worst investment of my life and tried to be an entrepreneur and run a coffee truck, which is around the time I became friends with Jon Snow and Jared Loftus, as they did Ninja Snowballs and Taco de Paco.
Yes.
It was my midlife crisis, right? Dude, it was my midlife crisis. I was like working on a show for Discovery, and I was like, dude, I can't do this production stuff much longer. I need to build a business. I was like, I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m. and go serve people coffee running off of propane on a truck that I don't know how to operate. This sounds like a good idea. So Little Foodie, yes, those grilled cheese sandwiches were amazing. Thank you for buying them. They selling grilled cheeses at the skate park for $2 a grilled cheese was the highlight of my life, and propane was bleeding out the $2 purchases faster than we could pump out grilled cheese from.
Oh wow, that's a change in career. Wow.
Yeah.
So why Little Foodie post that at some point? Can I go back and see his work history and see maybe some remnants of Tommy Talley there? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we could go look up coffee truck. It's funny, sometimes I still get notifications that so and so liked a coffee truck, like it's still there. And I'm like, oh man.
I love it.
No, so the connection with coffee truck is in LA and on big sets. Like you would midweek or on a grinding shoot where you're going 12, 16 hours, executive producers or lead actors would hire a coffee truck to come bring you coffee to set. And like a little treat like that would help power people through to get it done. And so a buddy and I who was sitting on sets here who had been in LA for a bit were like, man, like movies are coming through. So we buy that truck from Missoula, Montana. We drop, I think we paid $40,000 to have this thing drop in the old Walmart parking lot now where Trader Joe's is. We pull up, it just gets dropped. We drive it to my driveway, just this white box truck. We get on, and we've never worked an espresso machine in our life. We dropped $40,000 and we're like, well, let's learn how to make coffee. Let's learn how to use an espresso machine. We plugged that bad boy in, powered up. The biggest sparks I've ever seen in my life just come firing out of the back out of it. And we've already blown the power to the wall. Like minute 1.
Wow.
So
What?
That's a comedy show by itself. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, yeah, when people say that sometimes your biggest losses and your biggest L's are where you learn, and I learned real fast that what I already did for a living was awesome, and I needed to stick to it. Don't get out of your lane, Talley. So, but yeah, so the tie-in there was that we went and worked on Twilight, all 3 seasons of it. We'd show up and make $300 an hour serving coffee. We did G.I. Joe 2. Yeah. Zac Efron was doing something like in New Orleans, I'm going to forget the name of it, like Perfect Son, or I can't remember. But he was super young, just off of those High School Musical films.
Yep.
And he was hiring us to come out there, and it was great. I mean, we could drive out to New Orleans, do a 3-hour minimum, and charge $300 an hour, and just hang out on film sets and sell coffee. So it wasn't the worst thing. Then we signed a Breck contract. For some reason, we paid Breck to be at their park instead of Breck paying us to bring coffee to their parks, which is the upside down part of a contract. And they bled us out. It's actually Breck's fault that was a failure.
And you paid. Did you pay?
I did. I didn't know what I was doing. I should have. I mean, I don't know how to go pick a fight with Breck. If you're going to pick a fight with Breck, who do you even go talk to? Who's making the decision?
A swing. You're going to have to take a swing at a swing. That's how that works. Or Corey Wilson. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
He's a don't do that.
Yeah.
He's an amazing person. Gotta love Breck. But yeah, who do you go talk to?
I mean, now it'd be Corey Wilson, but I didn't. Yeah. You know, he was my rookie in Ancient Athletes a few years ago. I would definitely have an in with that convo. But
nice. Yeah.
We'll bring that person to the show, and you can ask directly.
There you go. There you
So
go.
did you get in the movie industry in Louisiana? I'm assuming yes, because when you said you worked on the 3 seasons of Twilight, I thought you were on set. So
Mm-mm.
how did it work for you?
I just brought the coffee truck there. I didn't do film stuff there. So I'm a reality guy. The only thing I've ever done in New Orleans was Discovery Channel's The Colony, which is
Oh,
they
you did
two
that?
seasons. Yeah, they did 2
Are
seasons.
you
They did
kidding me, Tommy? I was obsessed with that. Like
yeah.
before it came, and they only did like one, maybe two, right? Or
They did
two. The
L.A. and
second
then
one
Katrina
wasn't
ravaged New
nearly as
Orleans.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
when I
man.
met Curtis Harriman. I was on the startup bus with Curtis Harriman, and he's like, Tommy, you're good at video. Come be on our team. That's when I meet Logan Leger and Curtis Harriman. I sit down next to Curtis. Not within
Nice.
30 seconds, he looks at me and goes, "You were on The Colony, right? How cool was Adam Tickner, the Tick?" And like, so I don't know if you remember season 2, but there was this dude who was like sneaking around the complex the whole
Yeah,
time, and he was like a
he was amazing.
military. Yeah, but that guy would literally just come hang out with me at night because I was the night producer, and he'd be like, "I'm not supposed to be in here. I'm supposed to be hunting to trap my own food, but I'm pretty sure you have some granola bars over there, and I'm gonna need them." He's like, and then he would say stuff like this to me. He goes, "Either you're gonna give them to me, or I'm gonna wait till you're sleeping, and I'm gonna take them." And I was like, "You're terrifying. You take whatever you want, bro."
Yes. I need popcorn, but I'm just over here like, this is funny shit. This is good.
So yeah, when we talk about getting back to Baton Rouge, I mean, my tail's between my legs. I think I'm gonna be shooting weddings, working in news, or just having to create terrible content. And then a camera called the Canon 5D comes out. YouTube's becoming a thing. Every business can distribute video free through YouTube and Facebook. And it just becomes apparent now that you're removing the distribution cost, at least on a certain level. Well, back then it was free to play. Now, as you know, you've got to pay to play, even though they pretend like things can be organic. It's like, you better shell it out. Yeah, I mean, I just bought a $2,500 laptop and a $2,500 camera, and I started following Jada Cody, and was like, "Hey, man, you're really good. I don't have to direct you at all or write anything. Can I just point the camera at you?" So we started making stuff, and we started growing together. So that's how that happened. And then
too, or actually, I always screw up his name until he says it once and I can remember. But you did stuff with him too, right? Like you've just been everywhere. You've worked with so many different people.
Yeah, I mean, I would say when I got here, there was like 2 companies I could have gone to work for that did stuff in the range of where I wanted to be. And it was like Launch Media and Digital Effects. And I mean, DFX to me was way up here. I'd never done anything that looked like that. And really just created Tommy's TV to set out to find a sweet spot to try to get to that level of digital effects of just that quality, which even at that time, the gear that I could afford I wasn't even close. And just started grinding away, just met with agencies, fell in with some really good people who just started trusting me and gave me a lot of work. You know, it really goes to that moment with Covalent Logic and Stafford Wood in 2013, 2014. And we get this LED contract, and BBR is involved, Covalent's involved, Laurie Melanson is the head under Stephen Moray, and Jendal is out there pumping up economic development money, right? And just, it's going. And, there was a lot of quality companies out there that could have taken that job. And luckily it was right place, right time that we were entrusted with it. We delivered very highly on it. The team did amazing. But that's the moment where I go from 2 people to 5 people overnight. When you make that jump from like $190,000 company to a $500,000 company.
Yep.
And I'm no longer the kid with the camera. Now I like have employees with feelings and babies and houses, and it's like, oh, you own a business now. So I've pretty much been trying to learn how to run a business ever since, and that was 7 years ago. So it's like, maybe I should just go back and sit in the chair at Punked and point a camera, because that might be easier.
So it started in 2013, Tommy's TV.
2011, technically.
2011.
I think. Yeah, it's hard to say. There was a company called Contrast Films in town. They're still around. They do a lot of stuff in New York now. Those kids were super talented, and I was very much trying to be their number 3 and produce and go sell. And there's a certain point where they're doing a lot of weddings. They haven't quite made the jump to commercial. And they're like, man, you got to start doing weddings or you're out, basically. I was like, I'm not shooting weddings, you know? And so we split and I had to figure something out. So Tommy's TV, I created a company that you still get phone calls occasionally where people think you repair TVs. And it's really a weird phone call to answer.
Dude, I got a
there's two
sweet
Tommy's TVs. The sweet what?
Sweet Zenith. It's about 17 on the diagonal.
Okay.
CRT, good cathode ray tube for you.
Okay.
Got VCR, you know, an Emerson VCR that could use some help. If you're still into that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Familiar
That's
with Emerson?
Emerson. I didn't get a laugh at Zenith. I was, you know, was I going to say Westinghouse, GE? What other brand did you want me to go with that?
I played Sega Genesis for 5 years on a Zenith, so I have an affinity toward it. I wasn't making fun of it. I want to say for Christmas one year, what did I get? I'm going to draw a blank of it. My father never bought any TVs that made any sense. It was like, it was a Mitsubishi. Somehow some dude at some store named Cons, I think, convinced my father, Condon, that a Mitsubishi TV was the answer. I was like, Dad, don't they make the Eclipse? Like, what is a car? Like, he's like, no, it's one of these great Japanese companies. They make everything. They're the best.
Yeah.
So I had
90s were weird, dude. I had a Fila branded TV at one point. I had suede on my feet, and I had no, I'm joking. I'm totally lying.
Say, that's really weird.
You have all the great stories. I had to go like way out there. Suede branded TV. If you didn't like that joke, I was just going to click broadcast. Look,
I was trying to imagine like what Foot Locker promo was happening at the time.
You're being punked right now with the dumbass questions I'm asking you. You're so. I mean, Tommy's TV. When I think about that, I obviously think of you. Obviously, it's branded. You are it. But I can't help but see that beard, that you and I just love it. It's so raw and authentic, man. It's genuinely you, and I loved that about the branding. But you're doing something different now. You're very successful. Tommy's TV, doing some amazing stuff. Tell us where you're at now, what you're doing. All the snazzy things you're doing at
Echo Tango. Well, yeah, Echo Tango Creative is the marriage between brand and story. And so I basically had been, for 2 or 3 years, I had spent over $100,000 on this awesome company called Elbow Room, and they were doing design and motion graphics for Tommy's TV productions. And it just became clear for us to grow that was a lot of money to spend. I had to bring it in-house, but I didn't want to go hire and manage. I wouldn't have known how to hire and manage designers. I didn't come from that. I can manage the film crew. I can walk into a boardroom and work on a pitch. These are all things that are natural. But to sit over, work to collaborate with a designer or an animator is not something I'm super comfortable with. I don't come from that world. So basically it kind of came down to like making that offer of like, what does merger look like? And so Eric Martin joined up, wanted to try to grow something bigger. Because we had both companies have been stuck around the same spot for a few years. And we became Echo Tango. So it's Eric and Tommy. We had tried to come up with all sorts of names for other things. We were like, we're going to be Secret Dakota Ring, or we're going to be this. And all of a sudden I sat down one night with I hit up Eric 2 or 3 in the morning after way too much whiskey, and I'm like typing away. And I was like, dude, I don't know how to brand anything that doesn't have my name in it. So what if you're Echo and I'm Tango? And oh, by the way, the E and the T are the only single characters in Morse code because they're the most commonly used letters in the English language. And so it's the dit and the da. And he was wow. Oh man, I think we did it. So we're the dit and the da, Echo Tango, and it's been great. I mean, now it's a company. It's yeah. Say that one more time.
The secret is the whiskey. So once you got the whiskey, you got
that's it. Yes. yes. Staying up late drinking whiskey. I became really good at that during pandemic, by the way. It kind of became my specialty. But no, I think I'm enjoying what I do way more now because I'm learning. Like film had become stale. Like I think when we show up as a crew, everyone thinks we're like a 3-ring circus and like it's entertaining, we're performing. And you have to do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of gear. It's a lot of work. And I just become burnt out. That's not to say that some projects don't light a fire under you. And I think this happens with any industry, but all of a sudden having a side to the company that explores and does things that I get to sit at the table, even though I probably shouldn't be allowed. Luckily I own the company, so they allow me. But to talk about designing a whiskey label, we just did a 10-year anniversary whiskey label, and the packaging is beautiful. So when you hire extremely talented people and you just get to be a part of the pre-convos and watch it come to life with things that are well beyond your skill set, like I couldn't dream of doing in a million years, that's really fun for me. And I'm having a blast doing that. And I think there's a potential, watching this team get excited about whiskey packaging and finding more whiskey labels, finding more tequila packaging. We have some great ends right now that could be huge. So yeah, it's been an exciting. We had become stale at Tommy's TV. We had really started. We produced this series called Come Home, Louisiana. It was very beautiful. It was very emotional, connected well. And then people would call us and be like, I want that. And when you get to a point that you're selling a creative that's almost prepackaged because you can recreate that very easily, you wake up one day and you're like, holy crap, in 3 years, I haven't made a video that's made someone laugh. I've only made videos that have made people cry. And this is getting really weird.
Well, and so on that note, can you tell me what still kind of gets you excited about the creative process? You know, if you're talking about video, like you mentioned, there's a lot behind the scenes. I mean, you were joking. You were joking earlier backstage. You know, we got the ring light. I've got a mic. I'm trying to have this set up. You know, there's a lot of planning and a process that you have to follow when you're trying to create this and make it look good. Because if it's created this content and it's amazing, but you didn't catch it, right? That's your ass. So can you talk about what still gets you going about the creative process, or what do you love about video? What are those projects that get you excited?
Well, first off, on the ring lights, I'm super jealous because I have a ridiculously lazy eye. And if I were to ring light these eyes, my gosh, the droop would be so real, it would be out of control. Y'all look amazing. I'm going to stay hat down and glasses up and full disguise mode. When we go, what gets you going? So we won a national Addy this year. And I guess this is the best way to describe what's fun. Yeah. So it's almost no story how fast it goes. So I'm in Wrigleyville. I'm staying with Scott Boris's marketer who lives in Chicago. And he runs the whole Chicago, the Cubs, the White Sox, Milwaukee, Detroit. They break down their sports agents break down their marketers in terms of regions. You can have like a 3-hour drive window and get to different players you'll be collaborating with. So I'm hanging out with him. We're working with Chris Bryant, who's the third baseman for the Cubbies. And I'm staying there for 14 days. To get deeper into the Cubs circle, meet more people. And we have like 2 shoots scheduled. One I'm tagging along with Red Bull, and one's a nonprofit ask from Chris himself. And so I'm just hanging out, and we have a rain delay. And I see that Marcus Stroman, who's one of my favorite pitchers to watch pitch, and is an Adidas client. We got to Adidas because Chris is also an Adidas client. Is going to be traded to New York. They think it's the Yankees, which means he's going home because that was his favorite team growing up, and that's where he's from. And I'm like, man, we need to hit up Adidas. Like, we need to do something about coming home. Like, this is a great opportunity. And so hit up my Adidas rep in Chicago. He's going to connect me to the New York or Toronto guy, and we're going to figure out who that pass off would be between and see if I can get it going. And then I call Zero Skidmore, who is a world-renowned spoken word artist who lives in Baton Rouge. And he won the World Poetry Slam in 2013. We've done 2 other projects together. So I called him and was like, dude, this guy's going home. I don't have any guaranteed budget right now. I just know that if I show them and don't tell them, there's a much better chance I get it. I don't need you to do anything fancy. Here's like the Wikipedia page on this guy. Here's basically where he's from. Here's all these notes. And Zero does what he always does. Like an hour later, I have a text message with his first performance. And You know, it was pretty impressive. So the thing about watching that, we almost didn't submit it for the Addies because it became such an afterthought. We did it in June of last year. It was built for Marcus's Instagram stories. It was going to go on IGTV, and it gets dropped, and Marcus gets fired within like 2 months. Or I don't know how that works now, they might not call it firing, but Marcus basically won't stop taking pictures of his Jordan collection when he's an Adidas athlete. And so basically like this Adidas piece can't really live there anymore. So like if it kind of became this thing and it was like, you know, it didn't really have legs in terms of what it was delivered for originally, which was being in the social media world. And so, I mean, I want to say 3 days before the Addies or whatever, when we're like shuffling late, all of a sudden we go back into our portfolio and go, look. So I think that video is great. Zero's performance is great, but what really happens for it to catch that level of legs and get the attention of your peers is what's going on in the US. We're in pandemic, and the US is on fire with people who are very, very upset with what's going on. And ultimately you have a marketing campaign built with an edgy voice of an African-American poet and an African-American pitcher that matches his performance with that. Like, that's why that wins. That's why it goes as far as it does, because no marketing was being done like that. And it stuck out consistently at every level it went to feel like the passion and kind of energy of it all that the world was going through. So I think that's why we see the success of that. I think if we do that in 2012, the same thing doesn't happen.
Would have been different. How can we access it? I want to see that video.
You can go to echotango.co, and it's in our body of work. I could give y'all the link if y'all want to share it.
Yeah, we'll share.
And trying to think. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Wow. The project sounds amazing.
Yeah,
and
working in baseball. Perfect. Yeah, and it was, I mean, literally sitting outside of Wrigley at Starbucks during a rain delay, right? Like you're just sitting there and you're like, man, like, let me see if I can get this going. And so you got back to the passion of it. The passion of it for me is creating on the fly, creating and just going, which is why I always like documentary. Still at Echo Tango, people get confused who are clients when I'm not on set directing a scripted narrative. Like, my brain doesn't work that way. I don't want to take 10 pages of copy and go practice with actors for days and work on set blocking and deciding what color the picture in the background is going to be. I want to come meet you. I want to get to know you. And I want to take a journey through your life with you and then tell that story to the world. That gets me excited.
Wow. That gets you excited. So what is it? Is it about, because you're chief storyteller, right? I mean, how do you tell a story? I mean, what I guess what I'm trying to ask, Tommy, is like, what's your role there?
My role is hearing someone give me the answer and then spit it back to them and market it back to them so well in a way they've never heard, because they don't really hear themselves saying it. They just blow right through it. So I capture it and then I present it right back to them in a way that they've never thought about it and convince them that that's how they make their jump.
Wow.
So then how do you listen
during pandemic?
How do you find those things that stick out?
Go back.
People gloss over it.
So, I mean, you and I kind of did it, and I don't know if this was planned when I was pacing around my backyard drinking way too much whiskey during the early stages of pandemic, but you and I were talking about what you're doing. I mean, your story is crazy to me. You run an IT company. Have you seen your face, seen your energy, seen your smile? That's the most confusing thing in the world to me. Like, you're an IT guy. Like, what? That's crazy. So we've talked for years about stuff, and we're like,
I'm a video guy. That's why I love you. That's why this is like a love bond. I mean, and I trust what you do. I see what you do, and I know how special it is. That's why there's a bond there that I know I'm the IT guy, but I'm really a video guy at heart that picked up computers. And I liked the old, I made jokes about the VCR and the TVs. I liked having 6 TVs up on some shelf, right? With like, a deck here of 2 VCRs and another one and like a switchboard and everything. I liked the character generator. I liked all that old video, like get your hands dirty type stuff. I got out of it as soon as, which is kind of weird. I got out of video as soon as it became so digital. As soon as it was Avid, you know, I was at LSU and it pretty much became Avid for everything. And it was, I don't know, I lost piece of it there. But what you're doing there is you capture it so different, man. I love that you're saying I stand out, but it's you who stands out. Your work stands out. That's why you want a national Addy. You hear about local Addies, you want a national Addy? Are you freaking kidding me? Come on.
Yeah, I was literally sitting on Jay Cody's show when they announced it, and we almost all fell out of our chairs that it was a gold Addy. When we knew we even got to nationals and had won something, because they notify you to make sure you watch, we was like, oh, great. We won a silver, and there's going to be like a bunch of $1 million commercials we're compared to, and the fact that we're there, we are a less than $10,000 spot. We used existing footage. We didn't have to ask MLB for permission because it was for a personal brand. It was for Stroman. And so all these clearances happen real easy. And it's about him being an Adidas athlete and being a creator. I would love to know what the budgets of everything else in the video category that won gold was. This project took us 2 days of editing and 1 day of writing for zero, 2 hours of writing for zero. The way that got out of the door, and it's up against Grant Hill, talking to digital Grant Hill, and it's like a $1.5 million like ridiculous thing. And I'm like, we're sitting next to that. And we were just a good idea with exceptional execution. And that starts with the artist in zero and his ability. Yeah.
But also you say that too, but you need to take a bit of the credit because it sounds like you also put it together, right? Like you connected it from this one thing, saw a storyline, so to say, and went that route and developed it. Like without you seeing that or visualizing what it could be, that would have been a connection that never was made. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how you do it. Like you see stuff, regular stuff, like you said, it just happening around it. But you said you somehow pick it up and repeat it back to them and sell it on them. There's some way that you listen beyond, like on a different level or an understanding on a different level, because the way you see things upon execution's a whole nother thing, I think, in my opinion, because y'all execute at a high level, but you find the, I hate to say grit, you find the meat of it. And I don't know how you do it. You lock into it so well.
Well, I appreciate that. I think being a documentary filmmaker is about being a professional listener. Like that's literally what you are. You brought a camera in, you have a technical ability, but you're a professional listener. And you're sitting there interviewing somebody and you're trying to pull out some story you already see in your head. You're like, I want to go here and I want to do this and I want to come over here and I want to do that. So you're already training that. Then you have to go sit with footage, and I've done this for years. This is where I think it's easy to forget that you're an expert. As your life goes, like you kind of evolve into something different, but forget where you came from. The 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 hours of shooting that, hearing that, taking notes, then going to the edit bay, getting my ass kicked, sucking at it for years, right? And then you develop the muscle, which you ask better questions, take better notes, hear an interesting nugget where the person's voice cracked in a different way, and you know there's emotion attached to that, or their octave changed and there became joy attached with that. So then you take them down that road and you seek more joy and what that joy is. And so you become a master of all these things, these interpersonal relationships and connections, and then you go find them. So, you know, I think that's where that comes from. And that working that muscle, years in the making. And going back to you and I though, talking, like I've talked to you for years about your brand, you know, and it's confused me. Like, I think we talked, a while ago, and I was like, you're the face, and you're like, no, but these other guys, and he's great because of this, and he's great with this. I was like, what other IT company markets in any way? And here's the other thing. I think I've said this to you many times, but at the end of the day, you're like, oh yeah, I like cameras like this. You're also a camera whore, bro. Like you are a camera whore, and like your entire life, you know how to find it. It's like, boom, it's over here. Boom, it's over here. And you're just like ear to ear smalling, and you're like on, dude. And it's like, why on earth would we waste a second of any content we're going to put anywhere Well, look, your team could be badasses. If you put them on camera next to you, they're going to fall so flat that you can't do it unless that's the entire bit. And that's not a judgment on them. It's just, you're so electric, like you're a magnet. And it's like, you're the face, go. That's all we're doing. And I'm not working with you at all if I have to bring everyone else from the IT lab into this. Like, you go do it. You tell the story. You attack, and you like that. You're great at it, you know?
I love you so much. We're gonna work together one day. I know this. And dude, I gotta ask you more stuff though. Dima, do you have any questions before I go some more?
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Camera holders, you heard.
I'm shocked we haven't met before all of this, because it is absolutely wonderful. And as you were talking about the documentaries,
yeah.
I guess when you were sharing how like you're looking at the emotions, you're looking at the crack in the voice, but I kept thinking most likely the topics that you're working on are topics you're very passionate about. So as a result, you're really looking for, so it's not like somebody telling you to do a documentary. You're looking, I'm assuming, for documentaries related to topics you're passionate about. So let's talk about that. How do you pick the topics, and like how does the process work for you?
So, you know, in our world, and when I say documentary, I have never produced from scratch a documentary for fun. Like, I am a documentary filmmaker in terms of style. And so maybe I use that too loosely at times. I worked, my coolest documentary I ever got to do to get away from reality TV was a documentary called Big Ideas for a Small Planet. And that really opened my eyes. The Sundance Channel, you know, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Nobody's talking about conservation, really. I mean, coastal type stuff was being talked about a little, but like everyone I was around was like, Al Gore can die, like go to hell, Al Gore, right? Like, get to LA and like Al Gore is a god out there, right? Like, everyone's driving a Prius and they're like, I care about the world. And you're like, dude, shut up. Like, it's just like too much, right? And but I get on this show and I get to see not some PowerPoint presentation by Al Gore about how the world's coming to an end. I get to go meet with individuals. One person who's converting diesel engines into running off of French fry oil from McDonald's. One lady who's taking cremated ashes and mixing with cement so that loved ones in Seattle can build a reef, like you know, structures with these rocks that are made, stones that are made of this, to be part of conservation of the land. And so you're just meeting people who have found a way to take what's passionate for them. It's not political in many ways, or at least the stories we're not telling. It's about a passion they have for something, and they're doing it on their own, and they're finding a way to do it and feel part of it. And it's a small change, but it's huge. I got to ride the first Tesla, the prototype, for that shoot. I got to go meet Elon Musk at SpaceX on like an emergency phone call. They're like, everyone's in Alaska, producers on the way. Get to Santa Monica Airport right now. We have an hour 15 with Elon. And I'm like flying down the 405.
Wow.
And so you do all that stuff. And, you know, the Elon story, if I'm going to sidetrack, and I'm literally not answering your question at all. I've gone full politician on you. Like, here's a great opportunity to tell a story I want to tell. No, dude, I'm calling everyone I know on my Samsung flip phone while I'm like cruising in a 97 Explorer, right? And I'm calling everyone I know. I'm like, I'm going to meet Elon Musk. This is incredible. I'm the biggest badass alive. And then like 20 minutes later, I'm sitting in front of Elon Musk and he starts speaking. And I was like, holy shit, I should have stayed in school. I'm a worthless piece of shit. This guy is a god. This guy is the brightest person I've ever said in front of my. So when you talk about the flip, like you go from like, I'm a rock star, to like, you sit down and you're like, oh shit, this guy's gonna change the world and I'm gonna fucking hold a camera for the rest of my life, right? Like, it's just like, such a massive flip. So the question was, how do you find stories you fall in love with? I am working on a pre-production right now. It's super loose, but a family called me after they read a story that was in The Advocate by George Morris. And it was the story of a Catholic high player and a McKinley player that played in the first interracial basketball game in Baton Rouge. And later in life, they meet because Willie Titus needs a heart transplant. And Dr. Carl, who played on the Catholic team, Willie, who played on the McKinley team, somehow meet up and recognize each other. Dr. Carl, I think, passes him to the right surgeon, gets the right situation for him, but then goes above and beyond and lets him come live with him for a year and a half or so to recover, because the heart surgery was that invasive that he needed to be out of his home situation, or just needed a different type of spot for that level of recovery. So it's a super heartwarming story. So this family calls me. They live in Mandeville, and they were just like, we want to do something with this. And so the tricky thing with them was, what I saw was, we can't tell this story. I mean, we can tell that story on ESPN Sports Center on a 7-minute window with the Tom Rinaldi piano kicking in. You know, that Saturday morning ESPN spot, and it's all, you're like cooking eggs and bacon, and all of a sudden you hear that piano, and you're like, damn it, Tom, you're gonna try to make cry with this kid and like this thing, and like, oh no, like it would kill it as a piece like that. But I was like, no, this could be bigger. Like, we're in a serious race conversation now. Like, what does McKinley and Catholic mean to a city? What does, if Government Street is historically our railroad tracks, Southern's north and LSU south, or you think of all the comparisons of how our city breaks down. Yeah. But Catholic and McKinley are on the same side of that track. McKinley is the neighborhood where the best youth football team exists in terms of the South Baton Rouge Rams. The best, most elite historically players coming out of our city play on this team called the South Baton Rouge Rams, which are coming out of the McKinley neighborhood, and Catholic High can come in there and pluck them. What does it look like when a neighborhood is divided by a kid? What makes Darius Geis say yes to go to Catholic and not stay with his friends at McKinley? What does that do to a neighborhood and a rivalry? As you know, when a buddy that I interviewed for this piece is like, dude, I would never be a effing Catholic High Bear if my life depended on it, you know? And then like, it's like, dude, when I got off the bus as a freshman in my raggedy football gear, and I got out at Memorial, and those dudes got out, we had 32 players on our sideline, and they get out with 100 plus. There's not even enough numbers to go around. There's so many of them. Their uniforms are new. Everything's sparkling. Their bus is 10 times nicer. He's like, it felt like what I thought being an African-American in the South would feel like for the rest of my life. I'm like, that's the story.
That's the story.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. Like the shift. Mm-hmm. And linking it to current events, which makes it even more powerful. Yeah. Wow. I love it. That goes to
basketball game in Baton Rouge happened tonight. Say it again.
That goes back to your question, Rob, when like digging deeper, finding messages. That's such a good example.
It's something that Tommy's got a knack for. I got to tell you, you know, what we think is the story and the content. Like, no, it's over here. It was hiding in the closet. You hadn't even turned the light on yet. Just move a third of your clothes over. Yep, there it is, right there. That's it. It's so crazy how it seems hidden to us, but it's in plain sight to him. Like, and he does this to me all the damn time, which it's mind blowing. I love talking to this man. I do. I wish I could talk to him more. He's a busy man. He's running a company, you know, playing some sports. Dude, you got to talk about the Airbnb. If you want to talk about Airbnb in Baton Rouge, it's T-Tal. It's my man right here. Like, I saw your spread in a magazine once. What you've done is create this amazing network that not many people would even know that exists, dude. I love everything that you're doing is pretty impactful. So I find it inspiring to let people know. So we didn't even talk about Airbnb. He's got an amazing, beautiful family at home. Can you give some shout outs to,
I mean,
to the fam or some friends that are watching maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're watching. I think they're running around like crazy. But I mean, to build a company like we built, and to do it as raw as we did, it only happens because my wife has a master's degree and knows how to make be consistent, right? There's a reason I have a coffee truck and Airbnbs and a filmmaker, because I'm ADD and I can't sit still. So I need a rock, and I have a rock. And yeah, BT is like, so I call her BT. Her name's Barbara Talley. She changed her name on Facebook to Babs and started introducing herself as Babs about 3 years ago. And I was like, 40s are going to be interesting. Now my wife is Babs, and she's like throwing her hand out to everyone. It's like, I'm Babs. I'm like, yep, you are. Here we go. So BT is like, she's not working. She's not happy. She's going. And I'm like, we're pretty opposite. She's a grinder who's like, she'd rather punch a clock and go do a thing. And she does home health, and she works with elderly and gets them back in their space to live on their own and take care of themselves. And she just go. She doesn't work on a hospital floor. She doesn't want politics. She wants the one-on-one with her patients and just keep moving. And she does very well for herself. She always has, which is why I've had so much time to make so many mistakes, and our family's still completely fine. So how do you buy a $40,000 coffee truck and live to tell about it? Have a wife that makes a lot of money. So it's, no, and I say that to say, like, when Dave Grohl, it's one of my favorite creative quotes, he's like, you want to be good at music, go into your parents' garage and suck for 10 years. It's like, I got married at 21, had our first kid at 24. And even though oftentimes in creative, you can't get married that young and have a chance to make enough mistakes to be really good at your craft, because you don't have a long leash. And Barbara Talley gave me that leash, which is why I got to be the combination of young parent and skilled, because I got to be terrible at it for a long time and not make a lot of money while she carried it. So
that's an amazing rock and support system you got there, man, to be able to make that happen. I mean, because when I think about what didn't excite me about video or excite me about TV was kind of your experience, but also why you have some of these stories. You have to bounce around a lot. Stuff is like, let's get this now. Let's get this on camera. You always have to be ready. So I didn't want to live in like Fort Myers and do, something on camera for a little bit and then, go somewhere else and make like 23 grand. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but I love the craft. I love the creation part. And what was great about it is like, you're living what could have been another life for me. And that's why I'm so fascinated by it, brother. And I got to tell you, you have a beautiful family. You if you're saying you had the ability to, all this flex because of Babs now, you can flex on some amazing, beautiful women that you're raising at home, and strong ones. I imagine if they're watching you do Airbnb, y'all are both working, you're always grinding, and you've made mistakes, and you make that public, Tommy. That's what's so amazing. Like you're raw, you're genuine and authentic, and you just kind of let it out so people can decide for themselves, right? But I love that, because what they're seeing is someone that I look to as a role model, and someone who in Baton Rouge is someone I enjoy seeing out and about. If I'm out eating, pre-COVID, I want to see Tommy Talley out. Or if I want to have a late night convo and you're drinking some whiskey and, let's do it. I'm on. I'm ready for it. So, dude, thanks for like letting some of this out the bag, because it's fascinating. I love how the storyteller's on camera right now, because usually behind the camera, it's like another personality. But we see you in front of the lens and behind it, and there's no editing. It's just it's raw and it's beautiful. I love that about you, man. Thank you for your friendship and your stories tonight. Dima, you got any more questions?
I just wish we had like 3-4 hours with you.
I know. I want like 45 more minutes.
I want to learn more, so we would love to have you back if you have the time and interested, because this is just so fascinating, and I love it. Like, you radiate with creativity, and I want more of that. So it's absolutely amazing.
Well, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Part 2, T-Tal. We got to get this going, man.
Oh, it was fun, guys. I appreciate y'all having me. I appreciate y'all doing this. I saw it start from the beginning. So y'all been doing a good job.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for that. We've evolved. You know how it goes. We stuck in our garage for a little bit. We had like 20 shows that were kind of rough around the edges before we smoothed some of them out.
Well, we're still learning. It's still learning. I was watching one of our shows, and I realized I posted it 4 months ago. So imagine we started end of March. This thing is going. I love that.
This has got to be like an official 45 or 46er, I think. It's crazy to think we've done that much in such a short time. And look, Tommy was one of the ones I wanted on immediately. We were talking, I think, a little bit about this when I was, pacing in my backyard late that night. And I'm just so glad we got you on. Sorry it took this long, brother.
Oh, no, all good.
But that just means we get to do it again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we loved having you, and I know Rob as well. We can't wait to have you back.
Yep. Got to do it. Look, go home. Don't work so hard. Thanks for
stay wet, not wet, dry.
Yeah,
stay dry.
I think we'll be all right. We'll see though. I have a few more spots open. I've been getting pinged from Lake Charles folks, so need to get these folks out of there immediately.
There you go. Need an Airbnb. Talk to my man right here. There we go. Y'all take it easy. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Bye.
See y'all next Wednesday.